welcome to the conservatory again. It has just stopped snowing, so I'm a little bit hopeful that I might actually be able to do some shooting at some point. But anyway, I'm not holding my breath. What am I here to talk about today? Well, I've already teased this rifle on my Vixen chat. I am talking about this stunning piece of kit. And what is this? This is the Daystate Huntsman, let's make sure it focuses, Mk2. And this rifle is what I would consider to be the daddy of modern pre-charge rifles. When I look at this, I can see the genesis of my X2 that I originally had, my Daystate X2 and the Harrier. I can see my Huntsman Regal in this. You can see that line of earlier, early 2000s Daystates coming out of this particular rifle. So let's talk about the Huntsman itself. So as far as I understand the history of the Huntsman, and please, if I've got things a little bit wrong and you know better, please correct me in the comments below, because by no means am I an expert on this. But from what I understand, back in the early 80s, I think it was, or basically back in the early 80s, Rentokil approached Daystate, who were at that point producing pre-charged dart rifles that shoot a tranquilizer dart for use against large game and for use on estates against deer and things like that, so that they could humanely tranquilize them and provide either medical assistance or move them with the minimal amount of stress to the animal. And that's what Daystate were originally producing. And from that, Rentokil approached them and said, we need a small bore pest control rifle for use in our business, and the Huntsman was born out of that. And from that original Huntsman, I believe Daystate did a 12 foot-pound version for the UK market, for the domestic market, and then they also produced a few dart gun versions of it to continue on with their tranquilizer business. As things moved on, Daystate developed the pre-charge rifles a bit further, and I think credit where credit's due. Daystate were really the founders of the pre-charge movement. I'm not sure exactly how responsible they were for developing the initial technology that went into making pre-charge rifles, but without a shadow of a doubt, they were the first company, or I think they were the first company that took that technology and developed it into what we would consider today to be the modern pre-charge style. Initially, when they were hoiking their first rifles out around the retailers, I understand they met with very little success. Back in the 80s, a good Viarc was going for 150 quid max, 120 pounds for a really top end Viarc rifle, and they were charging double or triple of that for their pre-charge rifles. And naturally the retailers at the time were like, well, really? You're charging me double the price, and you also need to provide some form of filling mechanism, be it a pump or a bottle, to go with the rifle. Come on. And it wasn't until Daystate managed to get their rifles into the hands of some of the then field target competitors, and those guys then started to clean up on the competitions, that people sat up and took notice in these rifles and suddenly thought, holy moly, look at what these rifles can do. And that was the game changer, and that was the start, in my opinion anyway, the start of the move towards what we would consider today to be pre-charge rifles. Anyway, out of those field target routes came the second iteration of the Huntsman, which this one is. It's the Mk2. And this rifle, this particular version of it, has been superbly well looked after. So let's talk about it. Starting at the tip to tip to end, as I normally do, we're starting with what I believe is an original Daystate moderator that has been, this Allen key fixed onto the barrel. This is about the only area that there is a slight blemish. There is a slight blemish on this moderator. It doesn't even show up on camera. And it goes into a relatively thin barrel, I think too thin to screw cut for a modern moderator. The barrel itself, the bluing on it, once again, absolutely superb. And it goes into a really solid, I believe it's a milled breech block, made out of one piece of material, and it is, yeah, solid. It is, I don't know if it's alloy or steel. I should have really tested it with a magnet. The cocking mechanism, you can see basically the locking mechanism on the side here for the cocking mechanism, which is this bolt. And when you rotate the cocking lever, that swings into the breech body, and it basically unlocks the cocking mechanism there. And as you can see, it is a single shot drop-in mechanism. How many times can I say that in this video? Right. The brass cocking lever is what they call a swan neck cocking lever, and it is a one-piece solid piece of brass that has been beautifully machined. It initially pulls back to it's got a stop against the bolt, and then it is a really short throw, really smooth, really easy to cock. And then one of the nice things I like about this thing, this swan neck, is the fact that it's basically got a thumb shelf that you can rest your thumb against to thumb that cocking, the cocking bolt home, and then swing it down into the closed position, and you are good to go. Then we get into probably the one thing that I've got a little bit of a bugbear about, and that is the safety catch, which is a tad on the agricultural side, but nonetheless not an issue. The main thing I have with this is that to fire it, you have to put it into the fire position, you have to come over the top of the rifle and push it down. It would have been a lot nicer if that was in the safe position, and to fire it, you basically just moved your thumb to click that down. And I think that's probably the only complaint I've got about this rifle, because, you know, for all intents and purposes, everything else on it is superb. Right, so I've cocked it, let's put it into fire, let's talk about the trigger. So the trigger on this rifle is a two-stage trigger. It's got a really short first stage, it comes up against a solid ledge, and then the fall through is really predictable, really crisp and quite light. Does lead me to believe that this is probably an aftermarket trigger, because from what I've managed to find out online, the original Mk2s, the triggers were somewhat agricultural on them. The actual trigger blade itself is brass. The trigger guard is brass on this rifle. I'm not sure if they're original or aftermarket. You know, there's a sort of a brass theme throughout the whole rifle, with the rear stop here, and then you've got a ring at the end of the tube. The tube itself, once again, the bluing on it is absolutely superb, and this tube here, it's all one piece. It's not just one piece of tubing, and that houses the cylinder and the firing mechanism, the bolts, everything that goes in to make the rifle work. And it's, once again, it's beautiful. This whole rifle smacks of sort of the heyday of British manufacturing, in my opinion. As far as I understand it, when this was made, it was still made at a time when Daystates were built by hand, and I can easily believe that, looking at the workmanship that goes into this, the detail, and how well this all just fits together. You know, the craftsmanship and the materials and the workmanship that's gone into producing this rifle is, you know, right at the top of British engineering. And you can see this is where Daystate really earned their name. This is where the brand was built and the reputation for great engineering came from. And I know that today that reputation is somewhat in question, which is a real shame to go from something like this, you know, which is to be fair, it's a heavy bit of kit, to go from something like this that is beautiful, to the comments that you read about Daystate rifles on the forums today, their unreliability and, you know, the sort of the poor customer service, you know, almost brings a tear to your eye, or brings a tear to my eye anyway. You know, my experience with Daystate, with my Huntsman, it wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't bad either. I ended up getting mine looked at by Ratworks. I was having an issue with the cocking mechanism straight out of the box. The cocking, you know, my 12-year-old son couldn't manage to cock the rifle. I had another issue. I had an issue with the power level on it as well. You know, and Daystate weren't really interested in anything to do with rectifying that. And it's kind of not what I would have expected from them, knowing their reputation from old. So, you know, yeah, I don't think the company today is the same as the company of the 90s, unfortunately. But anyway, that's my 2 pence worth. Please feel free to comment, make comments below, and let me know what you guys think. But anyway, let's finish the rifle off. Yeah, you've got a barrel ring at the top here, which once again, a really solid bit of alloy that goes into a Foster fitting. I do believe, once again, this could be possibly aftermarket. It's got exactly the same barrel cap as my Huntsman, although I think this once again is made out of a heavier material than the one on my Huntsman. And then we get into the stock. Now this stock is beautiful. This walnut stock, beautifully finished. There doesn't seem to be a blemish on it other than where it was originally drilled for sling swivels and then filled. Having said that, you know, yeah, it's going to have been somebody's rifle, working rifle at some point. I unfortunately won't get around to doing a shooting portion for this video. I don't think it's going to dry out enough for me to take this rifle outside, because there's no way I'm taking this rifle in this condition out into a damp environment. This has been living in my house in a bag in a nice warm dry environment, because yeah, God forbid anything happens to the fit or finish on this on my watch. So yeah, unfortunately I don't think I'm going to get around to doing a shooting bit on this. I have shot it quite a bit. It's been a real pleasure to shoot, and I was doing a workup to try and find out if it had a preferred pellet. I was shooting good thumb hole size groups at 30 to 35 yards, or sorry, thumbnail size groups. I just felt that if I could find the right pellet for this rifle, I could probably get it down to 5p piece or fingernail size groups. So I was currently doing the work through on that before I did a shooting video. But I received an email last night from a chap that watches this channel called Andy. And he has contacted Phil and Tracey at Leicestershire Air Guns and has basically bought this rifle. So I said to him that I would do my best to get this video, sort of this little talk, shot today, and you know, edited. And tomorrow, I will, weather permitting, I will get this air rifle down to Phil and Tracey at Leicestershire Air Guns so he can pick it up. And what a lucky man he is, and what great taste he's got, because yeah, if I was a collector, which yeah, I'm not, because my wife would kill me if I have any more guns. She's, you know, we're already running out of space. Yeah, if I was a collector, then this is definitely something that I would be looking to put in my collection, especially the specific one, because I don't think I've ever had a rifle that's been this well made, or a second-hand rifle that has such a perfect finish for its age. I mean, yeah, this is mint. Yeah, I don't think I've had such a nice rifle through my hands anyway. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Somehow I've still managed to do a 15-minute video without doing any shooting, just talking away as I do. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for the next video. I think it will probably be on the Element Optics scope, and hopefully when I drop this off, Phil and Tracey might give me a couple more rifles to review. But anyway, until the next time, stay safe, and thanks again for watching. All the best.